Thank you. Do you like my intro music? I chose that myself. It's my favorite song right now. I'm Joe, this is Shelby. And I want to talk today about this company I founded called HITRECORD. HITRECORD is a community, an online community that's been going for like 10 years now. It's a platform and a production company that's all about collaboration, meaning on other online media platforms, say YouTube, Instagram, etc., people post things they've made on their own. On HITRECORD, people make things together. They collaborate on short films, songs, stories, etc. And we've made all kinds of things this way with people all over the world collaborating with each other to make, like we've published books, we've put out records, we made a TV show that won an Emmy, and we've done a lot of different partnerships with brands over the years. We've partnered with LG, Sony, Samsung, Levi's, and our current partnership, which I think is probably the most open and collaborative of any brand partnership we've ever done over the years, is with Zappos. And so Shelby and I want to talk about collaboration, what it means to sort of collaborate with people instead of just kind of talk at people. Shelby, do you want to talk about what is a 1% CEO?
You bet. So yeah, I've been at Zappos for just about over 5 years. Actually started as an intern. Was born and raised in Las Vegas. Thought I would leave. Got the internship, and 5 years later, I'm still here at my favorite company, and have this awesome opportunity to work with you and the HITRECORD team. And so yeah, 1% CEO is quite literally 1% of the business. So super high level, what would happen if you wanted to start a business within an existing business? So basically, we want to take our resources we already have. We already have a great tech team, a great marketing team, great content, and say, okay, what if someone else came in and used those teams for what they're really good at? What if we treated those teams as contractors, basically, internally, and then collaborated together and did really amazing things? And basically, that's the goal of 1%, is to say, take 1% of the company, 1% of our customers, and experiment on them. And Zappos, our tagline is we're a customer service company that just so happens to sell shoes, clothes, and accessories. So we're big on treating our customers well and collaborating with them, not treating them just as customers, but collaborators.
Right, and so one of the experiments you're doing as 1% CEO is this partnership with HITRECORD.
Exactly, yeah, so my big hypothesis this year, in my very biased opinion, is that I love the company, I love our culture, I love what we do. I don't know if all of our customers know a lot about us. I don't know if they know that, like, by making a Zappos purchase, as simple as that sounds, can contribute to so much more, in our community and with our customers and with our employees. And so I wanted to, work with HITRECORD and say, like, what better company and platform to work with to say, I want to collaborate with our customers and to work with a platform that does exactly that, collaborates with their huge community, the international community.
Right, awesome. So I think first probably good to play you all just a cut down of the announcement video that we made of this partnership, give you a bit of a sense of what the partnership entails. Should we play that video?
Zappos, you might know of them, but what you might not know and what I didn't know is how forward-thinking they are about their company culture, their core values, just how they do what they do. And now, Zappos wants to support a bunch of creative projects on HITRECORD.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
As with all partnerships that HITRECORD has ever done with brands, when one of our productions makes money, the contributing artists get paid. So here are some of the projects Zappos is going to be supporting. We're going to make a mixtape and invite people to collaborate on 7 original songs. We want to figure out how to make art out of shoeboxes, cardboard, dioramas, things like that. And then just tons of visual art, collaborative paintings, illustrations, photography, collage, etc. We're going to make a series of short documentaries, one for each of the Zappos 10 core values. One of the Zappos core values is to create fun and a little weirdness. So we're gonna be making a whole series of videos whose only mandate is that they need to be weird.
Oh, jeez.
When these projects get finished, we're gonna celebrate them in a number of ways. Of course, we'll do it on the HITRECORD platform. Some of the stuff we make, we'll post to our larger social media audiences. Some of the music will go on Spotify or iTunes. And Zappos will amplify all of that celebration by sharing the art on their platform, on their social channels, etc. And hopefully letting the world see what kind of kooky, creative folks Zapponians really are.
Cool. So, hey, thanks. So, so I want to just go into a bit more about what this partnership is and like what I mean when you saw in the video, I'm saying like, we're gonna make. What I mean by that is something different than it would be if you partnered with a creative agency and the creative agency said, we're gonna make. That would be a team of people, probably here in New York City, in a room thinking of what they should make and hiring the people to do it. When I say we're gonna make, what I mean is there's going to be a project page on the HITRECORD platform that anybody can come and contribute to. It's also different from a contest. You're probably familiar with the whole kind of contest model that I think that's sort of the typical way. If you want to reach out to your customers, you start a contest and you say, hey, anybody can design our new soda can. So here's a sort of one-off website where you can submit your design and we'll pick a winner and then you'll have won. That's not how collaboration works on HITRECORD either. A project page is not a contest page. It's a place where people are sincerely collaborating. They're building off of one another. They're remixing each other. They very rarely, there won't be, actually, I shouldn't say rarely, there will never be a deliverable that HITRECORD delivers to Zappos that was only, the entry of one artist who said like, here, you should use my video, and we like say, oh, we picked you and we delivered you to Zappos. It's all of the videos, all of the songs, all of the visual assets will be the result of many people coming together, building off of one another, remixing each other, and sincerely collaborating. And that's, I guess, that's a big part of what I think we're talking about, that when people collaborate online, it's something quite different than what you see in a lot of online culture. A lot of online culture, whether it's in a sort of a branded content contest, or just, I think a lot of just social media culture in general is all sort of framed as a contest. It's who can get the most likes, who can get the most followers. You know, it's sort of a popularity contest, and that's to do with the sort of attention economy driven business models of the big platforms. But when people are competing in that way, when they're in a contest, they're not always very nice to each other. And you might have noticed that people aren't always very nice to each other on the internet. And this is one of the things I'm so proud about of the community and HITRECORD, is people treat each other in a fundamentally different way when they have a common goal. When they're all saying like, hey, we're making this song or this story or this image together. We're working on it together. We're all trying to make it as good as it can be. It's really different than like, oh, I'm gonna one-up you and say the snide thing that gets me the most likes. So that's one thing I guess I want to throw to you and ask, like, is as far as that feeling is this is maybe a leading question. Is that something, because that I think overlaps really well with kind of the Zappos culture. Yeah. Talk about the Zappos culture and like the kind of positivity and the collaborative nature of what goes on in that company.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's how I think this whole thing started, is because the parallel was so apparent. Yeah, like you're saying, like when you go in collaboratively and you're all working on a single thing, that's not that different than a company, right? I mean, we hope that if we're all working at the same company, we're all working together towards a goal. And I'm sure that most of us can resonate with some companies are extremely competitive, right? It's like, sure. So maybe instead of a like, maybe it's promotion. Maybe it's just claiming credit for things, right? We can scale it to every part of our lives probably. So what if instead you said, okay, as a company, we're all working towards the same goal. Let's just work together towards that goal. Let's be collaborative, not competitive. And I think that's exactly what, so Tony Hsieh, our CEO, he was in a coffee shop in downtown Las Vegas. This coffee shop has a bunch of books. I wish I had a picture. I mean, like hundreds of books and knickknacks and crazy things. And he sees this tiny book, and it's literally called The Tiny Book of Tiny Stories. And he picks it up, and he reads through it, and it takes him hours. And he's talking about it with his friends, and Tony's a really great mentor to me, and so he recommends books all the time. Normally, they're very big. They take me a few days to get through. So one day he recommends this one book, and it's a tiny book, and he's like, oh, there's 3 of them, just go get 3 of them. And I was like, okay, this is different than the normal recommendations. And so we go through it and we realize that in the book, it literally talks about this is created by a bunch of different people who don't even know each other. And they somehow came together from all over the world and created something amazing that people can resonate with and read together. And that's something that we would love to do at our own company, right? Like, let's work together. It's so obvious, it's so like wholesome and good that this thing happened. And so like, how can we take that and apply it to Zappos, where our culture is number one? Because at the end of the day, I work there because I love doing fun things with fun people. And that's kind of it. I mean, I get to do really fun things with fun people, and what better thing to do every day?
Yeah.
Right?
The Tiny Book of Tiny Stories, I'll just say a bit about how it was made. This was made on our platform, and the stories are literally tiny. They're one sentence, sometimes 2 or 3 sentences long, and they're all illustrated. And this is exactly the kind of thing. This was actually one of our older collaborations when our community was first forming. It's very conducive to collaborating because someone can write a little tiny story and someone else can quickly read it and be inspired to draw something based on the tiny story. Or vice versa, someone can just draw something and then someone else can look at that drawing and be inspired to write a tiny story. Of course, it usually didn't end there because a lot of the tiny stories would get rewritten by other people. And so this book comes together in this really collaborative way, and I love that that's what Tony happened to find at this cafe. And when he found it, he called us, and but we didn't know he's very unassuming, Tony Shea, and I can say this about him. We've become kind of close, good friends in the last year, but we didn't quite know it was like, the CEO of Zappos wants to come see you. It was like, some folks from Zappos want to come visit the HITRECORD office. And we're like, okay, cool. They want 3 hours. I'm like, okay. And they came on like their bus from Las Vegas where they worked. 3 of them came to our office. And as we were talking with them, I started to realize like, oh, I know who this is. Like, I didn't know who it was before, and he started, we were talking about just the kind of culture that Shelby is talking about, and he was saying, like, I want the world to know more about how the culture of Zappos is internally. I want that to reflect externally, and I think that, maybe this could be a cool way to do it. Then we came to Vegas and met you, and it's gone from there. It's been really wonderful.
Yeah, I think another parallel is like with our production. They're called productions and records, and so it's just combining all these creative things together and creative people and creating these amazing things. And that's kind of what Tony's really good at. Like you said, he came to record, didn't really have a purpose, but
Exactly.
he knows that, like, okay, these are creative people, these are talented people. If I just put them all in a room together, things will happen. And that's literally, he kind of does that. He brings people together and then drops the mic and he's like, you guys go figure it out, right? And he just knows cool things are going to happen. The other funny thing is we had a bunch of people reach out on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is probably not the best way to contact a really cool artistic company. But we had a bunch of people reach out, like, what was it, like 4 or 5 people are like, hey, we really want to talk to you. And eventually I think they're like, oh, yeah, this maybe is something. There's a lot of people reaching out. This is not just a recruiting thing.
So talk about maybe some of the, like, more specifically, what is the value you're looking to get out of this, and why is approaching it in this collaborative way kind of uniquely able to provide that value?
Absolutely. Yeah, it might be a little ambitious, but kind of like if we look at another example of someone draws something and someone else illustrates it, someone else creates a song. I come from a tech background, so to me it's very similar to, like, someone has the product, someone writes the code, someone puts the copy, right? And it's maybe not always as fun, but it's a similar flow. It's people collaborating to create a cool thing. And so if we can just have the mindset of that's exactly what we're doing. We're all collaborating, doing what we love to do to create cool things. And I think one of the side effects of this partnership, which is really amazing, is that we're utilizing the HITRECORD community and like how creative and amazing they are. And then our internal teams, we have a content team, a creative team. We have these very, very talented people, and they are like, I want to contribute to the Zappos contributions on HITRECORD. And it's kind of, in some ways, it's interesting, right? Like you work for Zappos already. You can do it already. But it's funny. It's like, no, I want to work with these other people who I don't even know and create cool things. And then it's kind of, it flips it on its head where traditionally, like in the day-to-day, sometimes you get down and you're like, okay, my brand is these colors, my brand is this thing. And it's like, a good thing we like to tell ourselves is if you take Zappos away from whatever we're showing, can people tell that it's Zappos? And so like, it's kind of redefining like what we can do creatively with our brand. And it's actually been really amazing. We have all these creative teams that are feeling inspired by, people from around the world who they've never met. And it's amazing so far. And everyone, as part of this, like 1% CEO, it's a super great opportunity. Not everyone is thrilled with it or agrees with it or understands it, which is perfectly understandable. And so, and I've done a few experiments this year, but this one is the one that no one questions. This is like, oh, this makes so much sense. It was like meant to be. This HITRECORD company and us, we align on so many things. It's about the people. It's about the culture. It's about, Zappos, our culture isn't just employees. We don't just work with each other. I mean, we do work with each other because it's fun, but we also work with each other because we know we're impacting our customers, and we want to work with them. Like, we want to expand our culture to them, and HITRECORD is an amazing opportunity to do that directly with them and say, hey, you can influence our site directly. We're not going to infer it. We're just going to say, tell us what you want. Put it on there. Like,
Right.
Let's do it together.
Right. Yeah, that sounds like kind of the essence of collaborating with your audience as opposed to just targeting them.
Exactly.
Yeah. You mentioned last night the kind of holiday marketing push that you do every year.
Yeah. So we've been around for 20 years, our 20th birthday this year. And so basically, I've come from the marketing tech background, and we do our traditional holiday thing. It's our biggest quarter. It's a lot of people's biggest quarter. And so, like, how can we resonate with the audience? How can we be inclusive? And these are all things that we genuinely want to be and care about. But, traditionally, we would hire a bunch of diverse actors and a bunch of diverse, different creative and copy. And we're like, look, this is a diverse piece of advertising. Aren't we diverse? And I think, and that's, a lot of people do that, right? And a lot of people, and I don't think it's done intentionally to fake it or tokenize it. But this year, we're doing a collaboration on holiday stories, and basically anyone from around the world, we're saying, what do you do during the holiday season? Not just Christmas, not just our traditional things, like anything, like around Q4, around these cold times normally, unless you're in Australia. Like, what do you do? And so it's saying, instead of my team being, I want to be a marketer and I'm going to talk to our customers inclusively and talk about their culture, I'm saying, what if our customers just talk about themselves? Like, instead of trying to be inclusive, let's just have our customers talk about it. Like, this is their story. This is their time. This is their time with their families normally. Let's hear from them, and let's just be a part of it with them.
Yeah, that's always some of the most compelling creativity that happens in our community is when people are talking from their own personal experience. We've seen this time and time again when we're going to make a short film or we're going to make a piece of branded content. When the story comes from someone out there just telling you about themselves and their lives, it always has so much. It has these details that a writer just couldn't, like a writer sitting in an office in Hollywood or in Manhattan, like couldn't or just probably wouldn't come up with. Like, there's, speaking of the holiday project that's going on right now, like there's this woman I was just looking at. She recorded a video of herself telling this story about her family and their holiday tradition that is developed from years ago, because years ago they were tight on money and didn't have enough money to get like nice presents for everybody, and so she did get nice wrapping paper, and so she would buy these because she needed to buy her kids socks. she would get a big pack of socks and then wrap each pair of socks in nice wrapping paper, and so she'd have like 15 packages of socks all wrapped nicely. And there's something I mean, this is what makes for a good story. It's bittersweet. It's sad that that this family doesn't have the same kind of presence as most people, but it's also kind of beautiful that this mom had this original idea to kind of still have this gift-giving ritual, and the sort of sweet happy ending is that she's telling the story in hindsight, and she's like, and nowadays, luckily, we're doing better financially. We can afford presents for each other, but we still do the wrapping the individual pairs of socks because, that's like our favorite part of opening presents at holidays because it's a unique family tradition. And so this story that this woman told, this is going to be turned into an additional piece of content that it won't just be her telling the story with her video. Other artists are going to come in and sort of figure out how to tell her story in a visual way that will eventually end up on the Zappos platform. And this is the kind of thing that's like, I don't know how you get that kind of relatable human story without collaborating with with humans, with other, just lots of different humans out there who are living a wide variety of lives in a wide variety of places and cultures. So that's just one example. Is there anything else that's like surprised you?
Yeah, definitely. So just to kind of lead off that example, so like you're saying, a bunch of people are going to collaborate around her story, and it's going to be on the Zappos website. And we have a site merchandising team, we have a creative team, and they're also going to be part of the production in the end because they're the ones that are going to place it and and create the copy and like how we're going to advertise it to our customers. And and traditionally that might have been something that they got a piece of content in and they photoshopped it and put it on the site, and now they're probably going to cry as they're like putting this on the site, right? It's actually enriching some of our teams like work because they're collaborating and working with people. They don't feel replaced. It's not saying like, hey, like we don't need you anymore. Like we're gonna get all of our content. We're gonna, the bad word, we're gonna crowdsource this from somewhere and just fill in our site with a bunch of stuff. It's like, no, we want to be just another collaborator. Like Zappos as a whole, as an entity, we want to be a collaborator in this production. We want to say like, hey, these people who are creating these amazing stories, these amazing things, like we're going to work with them, and we're just going to integrate it in our site and integrate it in our culture. And now we are impacted, and that direct result of that, the surprise is that increases our collaboration at the company. Where we're not huge, but we're many floors apart, and so traditionally, like what happens when you share this story instead of slacking or emailing or going through the grind because it's peak and we're all working 12 hours. It's like, wait, guys, like come look at this video, like look at what we're doing. Like, I mean, it has a direct impact already, and we're not even done yet. It's directly impacting all of our teams, and so that's the biggest surprise is like, wow, we somehow got to absorb this energy that this like great, amazing collaborative community has and bring it in-house even more. So that's a blast.
So I see you guys are asking questions on the Slido. I want to get to the questions in a sec. One last thing that we'll cover. Let's talk about just the future of A, this partnership, but B, just kind of like what you see as the future of relating to your customers or audience through this kind of collaborative approach.
Yeah, so we have our production is live. It's right in the middle of it, and you go to hitrecord.org/Zappos or zappos.com/hitrecord. Please contribute, and basically, yeah, we're still developing it, and we're still working with the community, and so the next phase of this is going to be our customers are going to see it. We're redesigning a shipping box, and so someone's going to get on their doorstep something that's probably going to look like no other shipping box anyone's ever gotten before. They're like, how and where did this come from? And then it's just, I think it's going to balloon. It's going to keep growing from there, and then it's like, okay, what does phase 2 of this brand partnership look like? Like, how do we keep expanding this? How do we, go beyond what normal marketing techniques are and just like, the easiest way to hit the customer is on the homepage. It's like, maybe, but there's probably something else that could be explored here creatively that we haven't even touched on yet, right? And I think that that's overall kind of the direction we'd like to take in terms of, instead of, it's very normal to infer something about a customer. We all have so much data now, and we can say, okay, like, this is probably what they're gonna want next. This is probably the next category they're gonna be in, and that's very successful, and sometimes it's great for the customer. But other times, you could just maybe ask them, right? Like, just radical transparency. Just be like, hey, like, what do you want? Like, like, more like, did you not like this? Tell us. Like, how can we're here to serve the customer, The only reason to make, at least in my opinion, my team's opinion, the only reason to make money is so that we can invest it back into the customer and do more fun things with them. It's a great circle of just doing amazing things. And I think that hopefully that's, the future, when we're also connected and we're also used to talking to one another. It's like that personal element, that's one of the reasons influencers are so popular, because they're people. Like, people just want to work with other people. Like, where it goes back to the caveman thing. Like, we all just want to be together and work together on cool things.
Yeah. So, and then as far as the future of HITRECORD, we've historically been doing these kinds of branded partnerships for years. I mentioned earlier, but all of those partnerships have actually just kind of materialized much in the same way that this one with Zappos did, where Tony Hsieh was a fan and approached us. That's what happened with all of our brands, all of our branded partnerships that we've done before. We're just now starting sort of an outbound operation. We just hired a fantastic new head of sales. She's here, Shanti Ashakra. And stand up and wave so everybody knows, because they can say, like, because I would love for you guys to talk to her. We're really leaning into our technology now to try to be more collaborative, more inclusive, so that historically it's always been us and the folks in our office leading collaborations. We've learned so much over the years about how these kinds of online community collaborations can work. We're now building better software to let other people lead their own projects. We just raised our first round of capital. We did a Series A that we had never raised outside funding before. We'd always just been cash flow positive, like a normal business. But now we're like we're getting into building better software, and that's really exciting. So we'll be shipping some of that new user experience that's going to allow people to collaborate a lot better later this year, and want to just keep doing these kinds of things. Anything to add before we start? These are some good questions I'm seeing on the screen.
Yeah, I guess just to add that, I'm so excited to be able to just feel grateful. Like, our whole company, everyone talks to, just feels grateful to be able to work with such an amazing company that shares so many of our values. And that's, we're collaborating as companies just like we'd like to collaborate with our customers. So
It's fantastic, man. Thank you. So let's see. I'm looking at the screens. Thanks for asking questions, everybody. The most upvoted one, I think, is probably a good question to answer. It's, what is HITRECORD's business model? So historically, our business model is that of a production company, where we make things. We do it in a unique way by opening up the process and collaborating with people all over the world. But when something is finished, we deliver that to a buyer. That buyer could be a brand. Most of our revenue over the years has been through these branded partnerships, but it could also be, when we made a TV show, when we published a book. We have a partnership going with Ubisoft. We're making music that's going into major video games, and we generate revenue in that way. And I said it in the video, but it bears repeating. Whenever one of the finished collaborations makes money, the contributing artists all get paid. We've paid different community members over $3 million over the years, so that's a brief on the HITRECORD business model. Do you want to pick one?
sure, should we just go around?
Thank you.
How should media tech entrepreneurs think about where to build the company? So New York City, LA, San Francisco, etc. So I'll go first.
Yeah,
So I
Vegas.
think
How did Zappos pick Vegas?
Yeah, so we are based in Las Vegas. We used to be in SF, just like everybody else. And then we moved to Las Vegas. And now we're right in downtown Las Vegas, right by the Fremont Street Experience, if anybody's familiar. And we, Tony Hsieh, our CEO, he also invested a lot of money into the community downtown project. And so now we have basically, I grew up in Las Vegas, and you used to only go to Fremont Street if your older relatives came in. Otherwise, like it was scary and you just didn't go. Now it's actually like I don't traditionally go to the Strip, but like locals love Fremont because it's full of bars and food and it's trendy and it's fun and there's a giant praying mantis that shoots fire. It's a blast, and so it is something that we struggle with, to be honest. Like Las Vegas, it's not traditionally a tech hub by any means. Sometimes people struggle with this is probably not a family place because it's Las Vegas, even though it's full of suburbia, I promise. I grew up there. I think I'm okay. Yeah, so I think that, to me, it's more, and I think especially in this modern time, like, you tend to switch jobs every 3 to 5 years anyways, right? And that might move. And so, I've been at Zappos for 5 years, and the reason why I don't think I've switched is, other than that I love the people, it's that I am allowed to change. I've changed roles. I'm in an entirely different role than I started 5 years ago, from intern to normal software engineer to where I am now. I'm continuing to learn. And so I think my hope is that location is probably going to matter less and less, because at the end of the day, people just want to be in a room with smart people where they're learning, right? It's less about where and it's about who is there. I don't know if that answers your question. I guess how should entrepreneurs, just have a lot of smart people, and then people will come wherever you are, right? People are attracted to people. That's my answer.
I say go to LA. Best fucking city in the world. At me. Let's see. So I want to. This is a good one. Any tips for producing a collaborative environment at the office? Yeah, I think you'd have a lot of good stuff to say about that. It's super collaborative at Zappos. We're, at HITRECORD in our office, we've historically been a production company, and I think production is inherently sort of collaborative when we're all making things together and figuring out how to open up the process to include all these other people all over the world and making things together with them. It was sort of just came naturally that the office environment was a collaborative one, and it's been interesting since raising venture capital. The size of our company has doubled. We're now 38 people, and most of the new folks are product designers and engineers, and which is, the tech culture is a bit of a different culture than the production culture, and so we have had to sort of, for the first time, think proactively about how to have this culture remain collaborative. I would recommend a book, for just my favorite book I've read. I never used to read like books about management and things like that, but it's really funny. Like nowadays, I'm like, I've read a few of these and I'm like finding them deeply inspiring. And I'm like, I must be fucking old. But there's a book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott, which I just could not recommend more highly. It really makes a lot of sense for office environment. It makes sense beyond that in life too. But the basic notion is you have to be able to be honest and sometimes brutally honest with people. That's clutch. But you can't just be brutally honest with people. If you're just brutally honest with people, then you're kind of an asshole. You have to simultaneously care personally about the human beings you're working with. And if you can combine those, being able to be brutally honest, but also personally caring, that will lead to, I think, the best atmosphere. And so this is, I can't say that we're perfect at doing this in our office, but this is what we talk about a lot and push ourselves towards.
Yeah, and Zappos, like I said, 20 years, we've been iterating for 20 years on how to create this great collaborative culture. And so far, it seems it's mostly just a mindset, right? Like the difference between collaborative versus competition is like probably a fear, which is human. Like I don't want to collaborate because someone will steal my idea, or they won't like my idea, right? And so ways we've tried to like work around that is like, we have a holacracy meeting structure, some of our teams. And so there's no crosstalk, means you can't talk when someone else is talking. If you don't like someone else's idea, you can object to it, but you have to have a valid objection. I don't like that idea is not a valid objection. It doesn't matter who you are, what level you are. If you have a valid objection, it needs to like, does this put us back? Does this hurt the customer? 9 times out of 10, people don't have valid objections, it turns out, because it's always worth a shot to try. And so I think we have been purposeful in removing those fearful barriers and creating safe spaces for people to talk. And we also, like with our new structure of market-based dynamics, we actually pay teams. So now we're trying to flip it where normally a lot of people are accustomed to, I have an idea, and I can do that idea until someone, a certain person, normally a boss, tells me no. And that's perfectly normal. But we're trying to say, you can keep doing it. Actually, you can do it if you just need one person to say yes. It's not about one person saying no. It's just one other person to say yes. Now I've got two people, and it'll just grow from there.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. The most liked one is, how did you come up with the HITRECORD idea? And did any inspiration come from the entertainment industry? Certainly. And in fact, the inspiration came directly from the entertainment industry in that I started HITRECORD many years ago at a time in my life where I'd been acting since I was young. I quit acting to go to college, and then I dropped out of college and wanted to get back into acting, and I could not get a part. No one would cast me. And this was a really painful time in my life because I had that really strong urge. I wanted to be creative and express myself, but as an actor, you kind of need permission, and no one was giving it to me. And I kind of realized then, like, okay, I have to be able to be creative of my own volition. I can't wait around for someone else to give me a part. And HITRECORD was just this little thing I started saying to myself at that time, like, I'm going to push the button. I'm going to hit that round red record button. It became like this symbol, this rallying cry for me. And I started making little short films and writing stories and recording songs and just doing creative things on my own. And my brother at that time helped me set up this tiny little website to post some of the stuff that I was making, because this is 2005, the first version of HITRECORD actually. It was a little before it was so easy to just post your stuff. And it was on that little website where we had a message board, and that's where the community formed. And we were actually hesitant of whether we wanted to allow anybody else on the site, but because the internet can be sort of a toxic place. But we put on this message board, and what we noticed was some people were coming to check out the little songs and stories and stuff that I was posting, but what a lot of people wanted to do was make things together. And we thought, that's truly unique. You couldn't have done that years ago, even just a few years ago, because watching a video on the internet, that's not that different from watching TV. Listening to a song on the internet, not that different from listening to the radio. But people using the internet to collaborate, to make things together that they might not have been able to make on their own, that's new. That wouldn't have been possible before. So we thought that was really cool, and we leaned into that. And it was a few years later that my friend and co-founder Jared over there said, could this power a production company? And that's how it started. So yes, it came from the entertainment industry being dicks to me. Let's see. Should we do the top one?
Sure. Yeah. How do you keep the collaboration model a positive environment in an online space? Can content have a serious and/or inspiring tone to fit well with brands?
First, I'll answer the second one first. Actually, serious and inspiring stuff is, I think, I don't know if that's just our community, because like that's maybe kind of my taste, or if that's just kind of the nature of, there's something a little uplifting about being in a space with lots of other people and making things together. People get kind of serious and inspiring. That's probably one of the more predominant tones. There's also like weird, funny stuff. Like we mentioned, we're making the steady stream of weirdness, but a lot of the art on HITRECORD is sort of that kind of heartfelt tone. And yeah, we find that works really well with brands. Like when we did our LG campaign, for example, it was fun, but it also had this kind of uplifting, inspiring tone to it. And it worked so well for them that they brought us back 3 years in a row. And that definitely was the tone of it. So that's one of the questions. How do you keep the collaboration model a positive environment in an online space? So I said this a second ago, but I think it bears repeating because it's counterintuitive. The online space generally isn't collaborative. which is, I think, a big part of why it feels the way it feels. The way that Instagram, for example, works, it's the business model of Instagram is based on the attention economy. So they are kind of purposely getting people to compete for attention because that's addictive. It gives you those dopamine rushes, and this is why a lot of us, myself included, have experienced, I think, addiction to these social media platforms. But this is also why, as with many addictions, you leave feeling a little cracked out, like a little not so good. And this is, I think, a fundamental difference on HitRecord. We're not monetizing through the attention economy-driven advertising model. We're monetizing currently through our production company model. And even as we grow and perhaps, try out new business models, the mass, kind of ad model sort of coupled with the mass surveillance thing that a lot of online platforms do is one that I'm committed to never doing on HitRecord. So it shouldn't drive that kind of toxic popularity contest environment that you see elsewhere online. So I think it's the basic premise of, hey, we're making things together. By virtue of it being a collaboration, it kind of ends up being a more positive thing. We're almost out of time. Want to say anything else?
I mean,
That's a hard
a
one.
lot, but
that was not a softball. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I will say it's a lot easier to get on a stage with you. Much easier to calm my nerves.
Good.
Yeah. I think that I just hope that I genuinely think we're onto something. I mean, you've been onto it. I'm just kind of coming along for the ride, and I think that I don't know. I really think that we're in a new generation, new place where we can make impacts on people. I genuinely believe it's less about talking at them and just working with them. And I think that's everyone loves a differentiator, right? And that's the differentiator, is talking instead of speaking at them.
Nice. Thanks, everybody.